Good evening and welcome to NewsNight. Tonight we'll have all your international, national, and local news. I'm Juliana Brock.
And I'm Annabelle Gizzi. The U.S. and Israel conflict with Iran continues as things are starting to become intense, and PA lawmakers have reactions to how President Trump is handling these issues.
Plus, an update on the stunning actions of an 18-year-old Peters Township high school student that was arrested for running a criminal network.
All this and more coming up on NewsNight.
We're starting this program with breaking news, where Donald Trump has announced that Kristi Noem will no longer serve as the head of the Department of Homeland Security.
Earlier today, the president announced via Truth Social that Noem will be moving to, quote, our new security initiative in the Western Hemisphere, end quote. No details have been given yet, and more are expected on Saturday.
Her term, lasting just over a year, has been marked with controversy, most notably with her deployment of ICE agents across the country, detaining people without notice and leading to the deaths of multiple American citizens. Trump, though, called her term effective and said that she has, quote, served us well and has had numerous and spectacular results, especially on the border, end quote.
In the same Truth Social post, Trump announced the Oklahoma Senator Marakwe Molin as her replacement. He will need to be confirmed by the Senate to hold the position officially. Noem's departure is on the tail end of 2 days from the grilling from the Senate and House Judiciary committees.
After months of ongoing tension, Israel and the U.S. coordinated and launched military strikes on Iran, intensifying the war. The strikes targeted Iran's missile infrastructure and leadership, killing their supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Iran retaliated by launching strikes on Israel, U.S. embassies, and allied nations. The exact reason for the strikes was not clearly defined, but follows conversations about Iran's growing potential of being a nuclear threat. However, the head of the United Nations nuclear watchdog told CNN that Iran was, quote, days or weeks away from having atomic weapons. Senior U.S. officials called it a preemptive strike. Since Saturday, more than 1,000 civilians have been killed and 2,500 strikes have been carried out. The Department of State has urged Americans in the Middle East to evacuate immediately. U.S. embassies in Kuwait and Riyadh were closed after being struck by Iranian drones. 6 U.S. service members were killed in the Kuwait strike. Trump and Israel stated they are moving to the, quote, next phase of the war. Israel Defense Forces Chief of Staff Lieutenant Eyal Zamir said the war was, quote, historic. We have additional surprises ahead, which I do not intend to disclose, end quote. Oil has spiked 9%, with one of the largest price jumps happening in one day at 11 cents. The House failed to pass a measure to curb Trump's authority to wage in the war without congressional approval, but the vote failed, 212 to 219. Today, President Trump claimed that Iran has reached out in hopes to work out a deal to end the war. However, no negotiations have been made at this time.
Authorities in Havana report that an unmarked 24-foot speedboat registered in Florida entered Cuban waters on Wednesday and was intercepted by Cuban Border Guard patrol vessels near the northern coast of the island. Cuban officials say that the patrol approached those aboard the boat, opened fire first, striking the patrol commander. Cuban forces returned gunfire. By the end of the exchange, 4 people aboard the vessel were killed, and 6 others were wounded and taken into custody. Cuban authorities also seized multiple firearms, ammunition, homemade explosive devices, tactical gear, and camouflage clothing from the boat. Among the 4 fatalities, at least 1 was confirmed by U.S. officials to be an American citizen, according to multiple U.S. government sources. Another U.S. citizen is believed to be among those injured and is currently under medical care in Cuba. Cuban state media and official statements identified the deceased individuals, including Michael Ortega Casanova, a Florida resident and U.S. citizen who had lived in the United States for more than 2 decades. Family members have described him as someone deeply committed to the idea of change in Cuba. The U.S. State Department and other agencies, including Homeland Security and the Coast Guard, are conducting independent reviews of the incident. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has stated clearly that this was not a U.S. government military operation, and Washington is seeking further clarification from Cuban authorities.
On Saturday, 22 people died in a plane crash near Bolivia's capital of La Paz. The plane was a cargo plane belonging to the Bolivian Air Force. The military was moving near 18 tons of banknotes from Santa Cruz to El Alto, where it landed on a runway and began to veer off the landing strip, where it was then engulfed in flames. 29 people were injured as a result of the plane crashing into them while they were riding public transportation. As of now, military is rushing to burn any remaining banknotes that fell, as they are not considered legal due to being circulated. Currently, there is still no known explanation as to why the plane began to land and veer off course.
This past Tuesday marked the beginning of the midterm election season, with primaries held in multiple states. In Texas, Senate Representative Tam Tallarico won the Democratic primary for the U.S. Senate, defeating Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett in a closely watched and hard-fought race. The contest drew national attention as both candidates offered different visions for the future of the party in a state that has favored Republicans. Tallarico campaigned on a message, quote, rooted in faith, economic fairness, and a building of broad coalition of voters, end quote. Crockett emphasized her experience on the national stage and argued she was best positioned to take on the GOP in November. As results came in, Tallarico pulled ahead, securing enough support to claim nomination. Crockett later conceded the race and called for party unity, encouraging Democrats to focus on the general election. In North Carolina, Democrat and Cooper and Republican Michael Whatley won their party primary elections to advance to the November general election for the open U.S. Senate seat, CNN projected Wednesday, setting up one of the midterm's most watched matchups. Cooper, a former two-term governor with a long record of winning statewide office, seeks to flip seat Democrats haven't held since 2008. While Whatley backed the key GOP support, including endorsement from President Trump, aims to keep the seat in Republican hands. The race to replace retiring Senator Tom Tillis, who is expected to be highly competitive and could influence control of the U.S. Senate, making North Carolina a critical battleground in the 2026 midterms. A mass shooting in Texas has claimed multiple lives, while many more are still injured. Juliana Brock has the details on the tragedy and how officials in the state are responding.
A deadly shooting in Austin, Texas is now being investigated as a suspected terror motive. Early Sunday morning on West 6th Street in downtown Austin, 53-year-old Ndiaga Diagne opened fire on a crowd outside Bufford's bar, killing 3 and injuring 13. He was shot dead by police shortly after opening fire. Investigators suspect this was a terror motive after the U.S. strikes in Iran. Diagne was wearing a hoodie with the words "Property of Allah" printed on the front. Investigators then found a T-shirt underneath the hoodie with the Iranian flag stamped on it. Alex Doran, acting special agent in charge of the San Antonio FBI division, said the following.
Obviously, it's still way too early in the process to determine an exact motivation, but there were indicators that on the subject and in his vehicle that indicate potential nexus to terrorism.
Of those killed in the attack were students from the University of Texas at Austin, located just miles down the road. The university president, Jim Davis, said in a statement that some of those affected included, quote, members of our Longhorn family. This is a tragic, tragic incident. Our federal partners are here, as well as others, and this will be a scene that will take several hours to process. Texas Governor Greg Abbott warned that the state would, quote, respond aggressively to anyone using the current conflict in the Middle East to threaten Texans. Investigators are continuing their search on Diagne. Testimonies continue with the release of the files involving Jeffrey Epstein, as former President Bill Clinton declines having any involvement and is pushing the Justice Department to release all of the Epstein files. Reporter Leslie Krebs has the details. Leslie?
Thanks, Juliana. In an effort by former President Bill Clinton to push the Justice Department's release of all Epstein files, he and his wife and fellow politician Hillary Clinton faced hours-long depositions this past week. Hillary's was on Thursday the 26th, with Bill's following on Friday the 27th, both lasting over 4.5 hours and taking place in Chappaqua, New York. During the testimonies, Clinton was asked about his relationship with Epstein, with him clearly stating, quote, "I saw nothing and did nothing wrong," end quote. It was known that Epstein visited Clinton at the White House while he served as president 17 times, with Clinton riding his plane at least 27 times. Clinton also remarked how during their friendship, he never noticed Trump's attitude giving any indication that he was up to illegal actions with Epstein. Meanwhile, Hillary was asked to comment on pictures taken of her husband while he was traveling with Epstein, receiving massages and lying with women on beaches. Finally, Clinton stated, quote, "We are only here because he hid it from everyone for so well, for so long, and by the time it came to light with his 2008 guilty plea, I had long stopped associating with him," end quote.
The Department of Homeland Security shutdown continues as House Republicans push to fund and fully reopen the DHS after the war began Iran and America, stating, quote, "So we can ensure agencies can protect America during this dangerous time," end quote. DHS workers have warned that they are still experiencing strains from the record-breaking 43-day shutdown that happened last fall. President Everett Kelly said, quote, "AFGE members are tired of being forced on this roller coaster every time elected officials fail to do their jobs," end quote. The House Rules Committee will vote this week with a vote expecting on the floor and try and reach an agreement. We will be heading to a short break. On the other side, black and gold is Pittsburgh's colors, and some railroad trestles around the city will have new paint on them as part of the new painting projects the city of Pittsburgh is working on. Plus, PA lawmaker reaction of President Trump's decisions involving Iran. NewsNight will be right back.
Take them, cue them, open their mics.
Today marked the 1-year anniversary of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette strike.
Point Park University just hosted a campus-wide meeting.
Plans for the rapid transit bus line are not set to conclude until 2025.
An update on the Peters Township High School senior who was arrested last week for running a criminal network involving minors. 18-year-old Zachariah Myers was arrested from his home on February 20th after being traced for operating a criminal network involving catfishing and sextortion. According to the latest court documents, after Myers' preliminary hearing last Friday, 267 of Myers' charges were amended, changing the original count of charges from over 300 to 67. Myers' attorney, Lyle Weaver, told the Trib Live that his deal with prosecutors, quote, protects the alleged victims who would have been through a grueling, days-long preliminary hearing. Washington County District Attorney Jason Walsh stated that all 21 victims are still being represented after the charges were amended. At the time of Myers' arrest, Peters Township High School released a statement reading, quote, "The police have indicated that there is no immediate safety risk to our schools, and we will continue to cooperate fully with the investigation. The safety and well-being of our students, staff, and families remain our highest priority, and we appreciate all the efforts the Peters Township Police has in this matter," end quote. Myers is still being held without bail and possesses many charges, some including trafficking, possessing child sexual abuse material, and sexual exploitation of children.
A serious multi-vehicle crash on the Liberty Bridge has now claimed the lives of 2 people and sent others to the hospital in the early hours of Sunday morning. Emergency crews were called to the Liberty Bridge just before 1 a.m. Sunday after reports of a significant collision involving 3 separate vehicles. When police and firefighters reached the scene, one of the cars was fully engulfed in flames, complicating early rescue efforts. Fire crews extinguished the blaze and found 3 occupants trapped inside the burning vehicle. Responders were able to free an adult man and an adult woman. Both were removed from the vehicle and treated at the scene. A 3rd adult female passenger, identified as Layla Michaela Jones of Baldwin, was pronounced dead at the crash site. PennDOT reported that the bridge remained shut down until around 6 a.m. Sunday, while crews assisted with the recovery and the investigation. News details have been released that the adult man that was trapped and rescued from the burning vehicle, 28-year-old Jaron Wilkerson, has died. The adult woman that was also rescued from the vehicle is awake in the hospital, talking, and now has long recovery ahead. Pittsburgh's Police Accident Investigation Unit says it is continuing to examine how the crash unfolded. With President Trump taking action by attacking Iran, PA lawmakers are having mixed reactions to what exactly the president's goal is, intervening further into the now Israel-Iran war. Reporter Leslie Krebs has the info. Leslie?
Thanks, Annabella. Pennsylvania lawmakers are having varying reactions to President Donald Trump's attack on Iran. Republican Senator Dave McCormick has been in support of the attack, describing Iran as, quote, the world's #1 sponsor of terror, end quote. Democratic Senator John Fetterman is going against his party and is backing Trump's decision. On February 28th, he posted to X, quote, Operation Epic Fury. President Trump has been willing to do what's right and necessary to produce real peace in the region. God bless the United States, our great military, and Israel, end quote. Democratic Congressman Chris DeLuzio has been especially against the attack as an Iraq war veteran himself. In a statement to WTAE, quote, and so I have a simple question back to every politician, to any senator who's cheerleading this war, how many Americans are you willing to see die in this war, end quote. Democratic Representative Summer Lee shared a statement saying, quote, from this day one, Trump has shown us his corruption and desire for regime change in multiple countries that he has no business being in. This is an insanely unpopular, dangerous, and illegal act of war. Congress must pass a war powers resolution immediately and hold this lawless president accountable, end quote. With Pennsylvania being a swing state, the opinions and votes of the representatives are crucial in a time like this.
U.S. Attorney's Office of the Western District of Pennsylvania indicted a man in Pittsburgh for fraud, aggravated identity theft, and misuse of visas, permits, and other documents. The man, named Mahood Al-Masri, assumed the identity of the deceased Mohammed Jihan in 2016 to enter the United States and used his identity until now. Al-Masri used multiple forms of identification belonging to Jihan to enter and live in the United States. He could face up to 25 years in prison, a fine of up to $250,000 or both.
On Monday, death threats were allegedly made against Pittsburgh Mayor Corey O'Connor on a police scanner. Songs were also playing on the scanner while statements were being made praising Adolf Hitler. Government sources said that while the music was playing was when the death threats to O'Connor were made. Allegheny Emergency Services released a statement in the response to the incident saying, quote, to be clear, the system was not hacked. The unknown user was able to access the analog radio system and transmit the messages. This situation has happened in the past and we take these matters seriously, end quote. Mayor O'Connor is safe, and while being asked by reporters about his personal safety, he said, quote, not concern. The concern was obviously my kids and my wife more than myself, but yeah, one day at a time, end quote. The mayor's office, the Pittsburgh Downtown Partnership, and Norfolk Southern are all joining together in an effort to repaint some of the railroad trestles that span around the city of Pittsburgh. Reporter Sam Myrick shapes what is in store for these plans. Sam?
Thanks, Annabella. The City of Pittsburgh Office of the Mayor has announced they are joining with the Pittsburgh Downtown Partnership and Norfolk Southern Transportation Company to repaint the railroad trestles above the roads that connect the Strip District and downtown. The trestles span parts of Liberty Avenue, Penn Avenue, 12th Street, and 11th Street. The trestles will be painted the Pittsburgh colors of black and gold. Painting will be starting this week and is expected to take 30 days, but that will be dependent on the weather. The painting will also occur overnight from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. and will have varying road restrictions, but the painting will not affect buses, bike lane access, or sidewalk access. Mayor Corey O'Connor says about the painting, quote, "Details matter when it comes to infrastructure like this, and it's not very welcoming to pass under a rusty bridge," end quote.
It seems that the leaders for Point Park Student Government Association are already decided before the elections have taken place. Only one student each is running for the organization's president and vice president positions. Riley Mahone, SGA's current PPT, is running for president, while Sienna Wraith, the current parliamentarian, is the only candidate for vice president. Talking to the Globe, Mahone said, quote, "It's not ideal. I would have preferred to be running against someone to bring in alternative perspectives and have more diverse viewpoints represented in the elections," end quote. Both candidates have worked within SGA for years and are looking to get the student body more involved with the decision-making process. After the break, an update on the fattest bear competition that we brought to you all last semester, plus our daily and weekly Pittsburgh weather update. Stay tuned.
Updating our fattest bear competition story from last semester, winner 32 Chunk continues to thrive. Every year, Katome National Park and Preserve in Alaska hosts their Fat Bear Week, where fans can vote for their favorite bear based on fatness, looks, and personality. After suffering a broken jaw last season, presumably from fighting over a female with another male, 32 Chunk hasn't healed completely. His jaw injury likely will be permanent, but he adapted by chewing on his left side, allowing him to thrive in the fall into hibernation season. We will have to see how 32 Chunk feels when he comes out of hibernation this spring. I can feel the weather changing as temperatures are starting to feel warmer. It is the beginning of March, and it seems like April showers may have come a month early. While the warmer temperatures and rain continue, weather reporter Bree Cupp has the answer to that question. Bree?
Thanks, guys. I'm down here at Village Park where it's a little humid but also just rainy. Tomorrow we're going to be expecting a high of 71 and low 59. However, during the day we're expecting a mix of clouds, sun, and possible rain showers. Later on during the night, we're going to be expecting a lot of rainstorms and thunderstorms. What will the rest of the week and next week bring us? Let's head to the weekly weather. The temperatures will continue to stay warm and be around the 60s and 70s. Saturday has a high of 73 degrees with thunderstorms taking a good chance to take place. Sunday and Monday will stay warm with the highs of 65 and 74 degrees as the sun will come out for both days and make it feel like summer. On Tuesday, the sun will go back in the clouds, but the temperature will increase to a high of 78 degrees. On Wednesday, thunderstorms make a return because of the temperatures staying warm with a high of 74 degrees. Wednesday night, temperatures take a large dip down to around the 30s with rain continuing and possibility of snow mixing in. And for Thursday, temperatures will stay around the 30s and 40s, with the sun coming out in a high of 46 degrees and a low being 30 degrees. This weather does not feel like 6 more weeks of winter, as summer feels like it wants to come around already. But before the summer, we have to hit spring first. Juliana and Annabella, back to you guys.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of NewsNight. If you want to see more, check out our social media pages on both Facebook and Instagram at UView Television.
You can also check out more episodes on our YouTube channel or our website, uview.pointpark.edu. I'm Annabella Gizzi.
And I'm Juliana Brock. From everyone here at NewsNight, thank you for watching and have a great evening.